Hello my loves, Tony here from TL Yarn Crafts, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome back to another Yarn Snob reviews video. This time we're reviewing Ogo, which is a new yarn from Yarnspirations that they claim is easy start and tangle free. So since this is a special yarn, it's gonna get a special yarn review. Not only am I only reviewing Ogo on today's video, but I solicited questions from my YouTube fam and my Instagram fam, and you guys had a lot of questions about this yarn. So I'm gonna give my 2 cents, but I'm also gonna answer your questions. I'm super excited to talk about this yarn, but first let's check in with today's video sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community for the curious and the creative. Millions of members visit this video workshop platform to learn everything from illustration and design, even how to run your small business and crush it at social media. I had a little bit of downtime during lunch last week and found myself browsing Skillshare for some inspiration. I found Holly Coley Muncheson's class, Creating Your Dream Career, and I was taken in almost immediately. In less than 40 minutes, I got a better understanding of my personal skills, the message of my business, and how to tie my story into the next steps that I plan to take. Even though my business is well established, this was a fun exercise to evaluate the why of TL Yarn Crafts. Now this class and thousands more are available on demand when you upgrade to the premium membership, and if you're ready to explore new skills, deepen existing passions, and get lost in your own creativity, hop on over to Skillshare. The first 1,000 subscribers to click the Skillshare link down in the description will get a free trial of the premium membership. I'm super excited to continue partnering with Skillshare. I think it's just an awesome platform to continue building your creative skills. But in addition to my video sponsors, I want to thank you guys too. We're like super duper close to 300,000 subs, and it just puts into perspective how long y'all have been rocking with me, how much y'all support my channel, and it just means the world to me. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Now, without further ado, let's get into the video, and that starts with a trip to the yarn store. Hi. I'm recording a video. You mind being in it?
Yeah, hi.
Hi. Thanks for wearing a mask. I appreciate it.
Yes, of course. What's your channel?
Thank you. It's TL Yarn Crafts.
My sister told me to keep an eye out for you because she watches your channel.
You're kidding.
Yeah, shout out to Beth.
Oh, hey Beth.
Yeah, she said my yarn crochet person actually shops at our Joann, so keep an eye out.
Oh my gosh.
Like, okay, I'll remember.
Well, tell her I said hi.
Of course I will. That's awesome.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah,
bye. I got a few different options of the Ogos that are available at Joann. So they have the Bernat Blanket Ogo and they have the Karen Colorama Ogo. They also have a Red Heart Ogo, but apparently that's only available at Walmart. So I checked 2 of my local Walmarts and neither of them had them. COVID is real and it's messing up supply chains left and right. Yarn is no exception, so hopefully they'll have them soon. Ogo is the put up or the format of this. So from what I gather, the whole reason this came about is Yarnspirations asked their customers, what are your biggest frustrations when it comes to yarn? And yarn barf, tangles, knots, all those kinds of things came up. So this is their solution. It's supposed to be easy start, tangle free, and super easy to use. So Yarnspirations is not trying to say that they're reinventing the wheel here. So it's taking these yarns that we're familiar with and just putting them in this different format to give us some choices and some options. So let's talk specs. So let's talk Bernat Blanket first. It's a category 6, 100% polyester, same as you always get with Bernat Blanket yarn. This Ogo has 300 grams, which if I'm not mistaken, is the same amount of grams and yardage that you get in a regular bullet skein of blanket. So you're not getting shorted on yarn here. It's still recommending an 8mm crochet hook, machine washable and dryable. So that's Blanket. And we also have Colorama, and it says it's a category 5 good bulky weight. You get 180 grams or 228 yards in this OGO. This is also machine washable and dryable, so that's pretty cool. I mean, it's nice that they put their easy care yarns in this new format. It definitely makes them a lot more accessible. Now let's talk about opening this yarn, because that's one of the trickiest things to understand when you're first looking at it. So I'm going to open this Colorama. So we're going to start by taking this cardboard front off. Oh, this one's extra sticky. So we've got the yarn here. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 colors, which is pretty cool. So if I pull it apart, at this point I do have a plastic tie right here. So I'm just gonna grab my scissors and cut that carefully because it's really tight. I don't want to cut the yarn. So then I can just pull that out. Okay. That's not awkward. Okay, and then I've got 2 ends, I guess. So this end, if I pull it, is coming from the outside of the yarn, and I do have an end here that comes from the inside. So if you have a preference for center pull or pulling from the outside, I guess you still have that option here, which is pretty nice. I do wonder though, if you center pull this, will you eventually have issues with tangles? I wonder, but that's how you open it. And I'm just gonna quickly see if it's easy to pull these colors apart. So I'm just gonna kind of stick my fingers between here and pull, and just to see how this is set up, I'm gonna try and pull the brown off. Oh, well, that was like way easier than I expected it to be. The color transition, at least on Colorama here, it looks like they've tried to. I think what is great about this colorway, at least, and these 2 colors, is that they're pretty close to each other, that it feels like a seamless transition, but it's not completely seamless. Yeah, like the color transition is not perfect, but I mean, it's usable. I can see clearly where I could cut if I wanted to like skein these up for color work or something. So they tried. I'm not mad at that. As you can see, so far it's living up to its name. I haven't seen any tangles. I've been able to easily pull this apart for color work. It was easy start. It's a little bit awkward because it's my first time working with it, but I haven't had any problems. In preparation for this video, I asked my friends on YouTube and on Instagram what questions they have about this yarn. And those questions, there were over 100 of them. They fell into 4 categories. The first category was packaging. Second category was the yarn itself. Third category was using the yarn. Fourth category was storage. So we're gonna go through them in that order. First question, is the packaging compostable and recyclable? Now look, I did a lot of research about composting and recycling, and I'm still a little confused, I'm not gonna lie. So if I look at the bottom of this package, I do see the little recycle symbol, and it says CA00111. I don't know exactly what that means, but if recycling and composting are something that are important to you, I would definitely look into it. Next question is, how big is the actual package? So I'm gonna give you some dimensions. I'm gonna grab a Bernat blanket OGO and give this a quick measure with my measuring tape. So across, we're looking at about 9 inches, and then up and down we're about 9 inches as well. So it's about 9 inches square. How deep is it? Well, this is going to be approximate, but about 4.5 inches. So not huge. I mean, it's definitely larger than a regular skein of yarn. Now let's talk about the yarn itself. One of the questions was how many colorways are available. So there are 19 colorways available for the Bernat blanket, and all of the colorways come with 3 colors in the OGO. When it comes to the Caron Colorama, there are 12 colorways available, 3 of which are solid and the remainder have 5 colors in them. One thing I will say really quick about colorways is I got the sticky rice color. On the Caron website, this looks like a cream, but in person, this is like a very soft peachy pink. So just beware. Check the colors in person if you have the opportunity. The next question I got is, what is the color transition like? So we looked at the Colorama already. It looks like they tried pretty hard to have it be a smooth transition. I'm gonna give them some brownie points for that, because they could very easily, as they have done in several other cake type products, just stopped one color and started another one. So I appreciate the effort. Now when it comes to chenille yarn, the technology doesn't exist to like blend them that way. So I'm gonna open this one up and show you what the transition in the chenille yarn is like. So I'm gonna pull and separate these 2 colors. So just pulling the navy one way and the teal the other way. It's really soft. Okay, yeah, so you're getting a little knot here in the chenille yarn, and what I would do is I just cut on either side of this knot and I added new colors as if I was just adding a new ball of yarn into my project. It makes it a lot more seamless. Yes, it does create more ends to weave in, but if you like this format of yarn, I think it's a very small price to pay. I just never trust manufacturers' knots. Never have, never will. Next question, is this yarn actually tangle free? And the best way I can think of to figure that out is to just start pulling the yarn from both ends and see what happens. So I'm just gonna take this skein that I've got in front of me. Let me see if I can find the end over here. No, I can't. So maybe the chenille needs to be pulled from the outside. I think one of the bigger issues that we have with other skeins is that the yarn is so loosely wrapped that eventually, whether you pull from the inside or the outside, the skein is gonna collapse. This one, the skein can't collapse. There's nowhere for it to go. So if you're pulling it from the outside, you'll just always have that consistent tight tension, so the yarn will easily be able to come off without getting tangled. So I mean, that's pretty genius, I guess. So is it tangle free? I'm gonna say yes. Another question I got is the yarn soft? And I'm gonna say yes on both counts. Neither of these yarns are new. If they were new, of course, it would be more of a conversation of are they soft or not. But if you like the feel of blanket yarn already, I'm sure you'll like it fine. The Colorama is 100% acrylic, but it is pretty soft and squishy, but it still has that acrylic feel, like that plasticiness to it. Yeah, it's definitely soft. Another question I got is this yarn splitty? For the blanket yarn, I'm gonna say no because there's nothing to split. Now this Colorama I've never used before, so I'm not sure if it's splitty. My first guess is probably not. With acrylic, it's so sticky to itself that it's unlikely that it's gonna split, but the best way to tell is with a swatch. So let me grab some hooks. So the box recommends a 6mm crochet hook for Colorama, so I'm gonna use this one, this cute little pride hook from Furls. At the time of filming this video, these are still available and I'll put a link down in the description. To start my swatch, I'm going to actually adjust this yarn so I can get to the cream. All right, here we go. So even the transition from gray to cream, like they really do try with the color transition. So I'll give them that. So I'm approaching the end of my second row here, and I would definitely say like the yarn is not splitty. It is plied. It looks like, let me see how many plies we got. Oh my gosh, it sticks to itself so much I can't even tell how many plies are in here. So as an acrylic yarn, like that's pretty common for it to happen. Like it'll have multiple plies, but different parts of it will stick to itself. It works, it crochets fine. I can't say that I'm in love with it. It just, honey, it feels like acrylic. Like, what do you want me to say? So if that's what you're into, I'm sure you won't have any issues with this yarn. And then the last question I got about the yarn itself are there any knots in the skein? So I used multiple skeins of the blanket yarn for the project that I made. And of course there are knots at the color transitions like we saw, but otherwise within the skein, I didn't have any knots. And so far from what I can see in this Colorama, I'm not seeing any knots either. So that is a plus, feather in their cap. I hope it stays that way because I feel like when yarns are first introduced, like these companies are on their best behavior, so of course there are no knots and there are no issues, but down the line, once a yarn is kind of established and people are used to working with it, some bad habits start to creep in. So I hope that this whole no knot situation keeps up as long as Ogo stays around. So let's talk about using the yarn itself. One of the questions we got is this yarn good for color work? And by color work, that means like using different colors for different stitches. So transitioning from color A to color B to color C, perhaps in the same row. And my first instinct for Ogo is that, yeah, it's gonna be a great choice for color work. And if you're gonna use color work, here's my recommendation. I would pull all the colors apart and then I would roll them into a ball. Now, this isn't a new practice. A lot of people do this with their multicolored cake yarns. So if you don't mind doing that extra step, then this yarn would be perfect for color work. And then the last question here in the use category is what kind of projects are a good fit for this yarn? I'm really glad you asked that because Yarnspirations already has the answer. They have over 100 patterns that were created with Ogo before the launch, and they're all completely free. When you go to the landing page, you can check out all of the patterns that they have available, and they have everything from blankets to accessories to clothing to baby things. They take a lot of the guesswork out of how to use this yarn. So whatever you might be looking for, they probably have a project for it, and it's free, so you can check it out before buying the yarn. So our last section here is storage, and the very first question is it easy to store partial skeins? If you haven't torn it apart like I have, then probably you could easily just wrap it up and put it in your wherever you store your yarn, right? But I think your best bet, honestly, is to try your best not to have to store this yarn. Use up as much as you can. In the project that I worked on, I used 5 full skeins, like every inch of every skein. If you're a little bit more patient than I am, then you can probably find an easy way to store it, but I think it's just easier to use it all up and keep it out of the closet. And the last question is this yarn practical for travel? Now, I thought about this 2 different ways, like maybe traveling from my home to the doctor's office or my home to the kids' school or something like that. I don't know, wherever you take your yarn locally. And then I'm thinking about like maybe air travel or boat travel or long car rides or something. Is it appropriate for traveling? So let's look at those 2 scenarios separately. Thinking about local travel, you can easily pop this into a project bag. It's gonna need to be a larger project bag because the Ogo itself is like 9 inches square, so it's gonna need some space. I really like using these reusable shopping bags from Joann. They just make a lot of sense because they're not too wide, but they're also quite deep. So I could fit a few Ogos in there. So is it practical for local travel? I'm gonna give it like a 6 out of 10 on that. I don't think it's the most practical, but you can definitely make it work if you're in the middle of a project. So let's talk like vacation travel. Is this going to be practical for packing into a suitcase? Perhaps, and here's how I would do it. So what I would do is I would cut the center tie out, pull that out, and then I would open this up. I would open it up wide and flat like this and then shove it into a corner of my suitcase. Or I would put it inside of one of those bags that you can suck all the air out of and then shove it at the bottom of my suitcase. So is it good for long distance travel? I'd honestly give it a higher mark for long distance travel because you can pack it pretty flat, and then when you get where you're going, it's gonna be perfect for working on maybe in the hotel room. But I would still bring maybe a smaller project if you're planning to be out and about. Well, now that we've answered all of your questions, it's time for me to give my 2 cents on Ogo. I'm gonna try and keep it balanced. I have some positive thoughts as well as some negative thoughts. Now, on the positive side, we can all agree the word gimmicky comes to mind. But just because something is gimmicky does not mean it's bad. All of the yarns that you know and love that are going to be available in the Ogo format are also going to be available in their traditional format. They're not going to go away. So if you don't like the Ogo, you can still get Red Heart Super Saver. You can still get blanket yarn in the skeins that they come in. If anything, Ogo is giving us more options, and I'm never going to say no to options. When it comes to storage, I don't think this yarn is prohibitive. If you look at the Ogo review that Mikey from the Crochet Crowd did, once you start storing multiple Ogos, they really start to even out with how much space storing multiple skeins takes. And we know that most of us are not going to buy 1 or 2 Ogos at a time. We're going to buy multiples. And I'm also going to say congratulations to Yarnspirations for having Ogo live up to its name. It's supposed to be quick start and tangle free, and based off the little test that I did today, it is indeed quick start and tangle free. I also didn't find any knots, and those are the things that their customers said they were looking for, and ultimately they did achieve that with this product. And lastly, on the positive side, I'm gonna say huge kudos to Yarnspirations for offering so many patterns. Having over 100 patterns ready for this yarn specifically, and not just trying to adapt some of their established patterns for this new yarn. Genius move, super duper smart, and it takes a lot of the guesswork out of people wondering, what do I even do with this? So let's now transition to the maybe not so positive reviews that I have about this yarn. And the very first one is going to be the price. So you can look up the price of like an Ogo of Bernat blanket and a skein of Bernat blanket, and the Ogo is a little bit more expensive. With this new format, with this new technology, I'm sure it costs more machinery, more packaging, all that stuff, so they fold that cost into the consumer consumer, they do get a strike against them because we're ultimately paying more for the exact same product in a different packaging, which kind of feels like the oldest manufacturing trick in the book. So I'm going to take one of those kudos back Yarnspirations. So all in all, I'm going to give Ogo as a concept 6 out of 10 hooks. I think it is a fun idea. Does it have staying power? That's going to be completely up to y'all. The only way that Yarnspirations is going to know you like Ogo is if you keep on buying it. I did get an opportunity to try out Ogo ahead of time, and I made the cat nap blanket. The catnap blanket is made with 5 skeins of Ogo Bernat blanket in the color Milk and Honey. So the blanket is made using the Tunisian simple stitch, and it's worked in join as you go panels. I started the yarn on the gray side each time, and I worked up the whole Ogo until it was gone. Then I added a simple double crochet border with twisted tassels. So the full blanket took 5 Ogos of the Bernat blanket yarn at $12.99 a piece, which is how much they're sold for on the Yarnspirations website. That's bringing your blanket to about 65 bucks. All in all, for a blanket yarn blanket, $65 feels about right. But even though $65 is okay, you can get it a bit cheaper. Michaels and Joann are both offering the Bernat blanket Ogos for $11.99 retail, and they always have sales and coupons, so make sure you check for those before you go to the store. If you're interested in making the catnap blanket, it is a free pattern up on my blog, tlycblog.com. You can check down in the description for a link to that pattern. So all in all, I did have a fun time trying out Ogo. I love trying out new yarns in general, so I gave you my 2 cents, and I would love to hear yours as well. What do you think about Ogo? Is it something that you would try, and is it a yarn you think is gonna stick around? Give me your thoughts down in the comments. I can't wait to read them. Now before we go, of course, we have to give huge love to our Cup of Caffeine sponsor. I got my coffee right here. I even made it at home today. I'm so proud of myself. So today's Cup of Caffeine sponsor is Tina H. When she donated to my coffee, Tina said, "I love your stuff. You're so easy to watch and follow. You reignited my love for crocheting. God bless." And God bless you too, Tina. Thank you so much for the support. Now, if you like my videos and want to support my channel, buy me a coffee. Who knows? I might shout you out in one of my videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.